Hello, everyone. We're just going to get started in just a second. Welcome. Hi there. Welcome. Welcome to this week's Ask a Nutritionist. My name is Stephanie Van't Zelfden. I'm a registered dietitian and owner of Nutrition Hungry, my private practice. And I am so excited to have you join today to talk about a very, very important topic. So today's topic is all about how to help kids with body image, what to say with our kid when they have concerns about their weight. So it is a little bit of a heavy topic, but I promise you there will be some positivity and a lot of positive, actionable steps that you can take today to support your kid. So let's jump into it and be sure to stick around to the end where we're going to have some Q&A. So, first, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. Like I mentioned, my name is Stephanie. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm based down in South Jersey, where today it is full on fall. It is very chilly. In my private practice, which I have been running for the past 4 years, I work with kids, parents, and families and adults who are looking to improve their health and their relationship with food. I specialize in intuitive eating, childhood nutrition concerns like picky eating and growth concerns, as well as disordered eating, eating disorder prevention and recovery, binge eating and emotional eating concerns, and medical conditions like diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, things like that. And so now I want to jump into today's topic, which is about helping kids who have concerns about their weight. So I'm guessing that if you're here with me live or watching the replay, then you are the parent of a kid who has concerns about their weight. It's back to school season. So, a lot of kids are going back to school and noticing that maybe their body has changed a lot over the summer, or maybe it hasn't changed a lot, or maybe they're getting comments from other kids or from teachers. So there could be a lot going on in this season, thoughts and feelings about weight and body image. So I want to talk about that. So the first thing I would want to say is, if your kid is worried about your weight, they are not alone. This is a huge concern in this country, and I want to share some statistics about that. The first statistic is that 40 to 60% of girls age 6 to 12 are worried about their weight. And this statistic is actually from 2011, so it's already more than 10 years old. I think the pandemic has brought a lot more body image challenges to light. So I would not be surprised if nowadays this number is even higher than that. In addition, 62% of teenage girls and nearly 29% of teenage boys are actively trying to lose weight. And more than one half of teenage girls and nearly 1/3 of teenage boys use unhealthy weight control behaviors like skipping meals, fasting, smoking cigarettes, or purging behaviors like self-induced vomiting or taking laxative. And I give you these statistics not to scare you, although these numbers are very concerning. But, I want to help you to see, that number one, having body image concerns like this is not your fault in any way as the parent. And number two, this issue is unfortunately very common amongst kids and teens. I also want to acknowledge, that many of you, may have also struggled or to this day are currently struggling with your weight and body image. And I want you to know that next month I'm going to be doing a whole webinar about, how to help your kid with their body image when you're still working on your own. So if this is you, you're not alone in having body image challenges, and you can absolutely support your kid and their body image while you're still working on your own. So stay tuned for more information about that, because it's definitely a topic that we can talk a lot more about. So let's get into, my first tip about helping kids with their body image. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to reassure kids that there is nothing wrong with their body. The answer to your kid being worried about their weight is not to lose weight. Dieting is never the answer. Dieting leads to unhealthy eating behaviors and can harm your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So I don't care what shape or size your kid is, the answer is never to go on a diet. And in my practice, I never, ever, ever recommend diets for anyone, especially not for children. So what we can do is we can reassure kids that bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and that is such a beautiful thing. Just like we all have different skin tones, we all have different heights, different shoe sizes, our bodies come in different shapes and sizes too, and this is totally normal. We can also support kids by telling them that bodies are meant to grow and change over time. It can certainly be confusing and even scary when our bodies change, especially for kids as they go through growth spurts and go through changes like puberty, as well as kids who might experience changes in their body related to a medication or a medical condition. But that doesn't mean that body changes are bad. And the answer to those body changes is never to go on a diet, because dieting is harmful for our body. We can also let kids know that most of our body weight and size is determined by genetics, just like our height, our skin color, facial features. So the odds are your kid probably has a body type similar to someone in the family, maybe a parent or a grandparent. So the point of celebrating body diversity is to take away the stigma of being in a body that looks different from what our culture says is ideal. It takes time, but we can teach our kids, and, sometimes it's teaching ourselves too, and reminding ourselves that being in a thin body is not good or better than being in a larger body or a fatter body. And being in a larger body is not bad or worse than anyone else. Some people are bigger, some people are smaller, and that is totally okay. The next thing we can do for our kids is to help them separate their weight from their worth. Our culture teaches us that being thin or being in a small body is somehow virtuous. And it makes us think that we are good people if we are thin. And you can't see my air quotes because my face isn't on camera, but I'm putting all these things in air quotes. So, our culture teaches us that being thin is good and being in a larger body is bad. This notion is completely ridiculous. I think we all know many people who are naturally thin and who do unkind things. And just like we know many people who are in larger bodies who are just the best. So how can we help kids make this separation? So the picture on the left is an activity that we can use with kids. Even I like to recommend it for adults that I work with too. It's this nice flower activity. And I will be posting this activity as a handout on my website, so you can download it and you can try this at home. So what you want to do with this flower, in each petal, help your kid write down one quality that they love about themselves that's not related to their appearance, their weight, or their size. So, what are all the awesome things about your kid? Are they kind? Are they funny? Are they a good friend? Are they a brilliant artist? Write down one thing in each petal, and then you can look at all of the wonderful, beautiful things about them. We can also continue this conversation to talk about their friends. So, who is your kid's best friend? And what do they like about their best friend? Are they kind? Are they funny? Are they a good listener? Are they just the silliest? Would your kids still like their best friend if their body was different? If their body was bigger, if their body was smaller? Yeah, your kid would still like their best friend? Well, why? Well, of course, the qualities that your kid likes about their friend has nothing to do with their appearance. And your kid would still love their best friend no matter what they look like. And I bet that their best friend would say the same thing about your kid. We can also acknowledge that kids can be cruel to each other. And it seems almost inevitable these days that kids will get picked on for, who knows what by other kids. So we can't stop these things from happening always, but we can help kids understand that anyone who's judging them based on what their body looks like is wrong. And their judgment is really about how they feel about themselves, and it's not about your kid. And so my third tip is to sit in the suck with your kids. I like this phrase, sit in the suck. I learned this term from a body image therapist, Bree Campos. She is absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend following her on social media. Sitting in the suck means that we aren't trying, and in fact, we aren't able to solve some of these problems, but we can sit there with our kids and we can be there for them and we can validate how they're feeling. The sad truth is that our culture is very fat phobic. We are constantly surrounded by messages that being thin is better, and that being in a smaller body means that you are beautiful and worthy and accepted, and all these other toxic messages. So I don't know if you guys remember this. I have this picture of this movie, Shallow Hal. So now this movie is more than 20 years old, which is like totally crazy. And I won't go into the whole plot of the movie because it's just horrible. But movies like this and other messages in the media are just total garbage. And there's also, if you're interested, a new-ish documentary, I think it came out this year on Hulu, about the toxic influence of companies like Victoria's Secret. So just a warning, it is a little bit triggering, this documentary, and it does talk about sexual assault, sex trafficking, and eating disorders. So use caution if those topics are sensitive for yourself, or if, your teenager is interested in watching this too. So, we can't fix our culture for our kid, but we can be there for them, and we can sit in that suck with them, and we can support them as they navigate through it. What we can do is we can set boundaries. We can decide to not talk about diet culture in our homes. We can decide to not comment on people's bodies, but rather to talk about qualities about a person that are not related to their appearance. And we can also ask our family and our friends to do the same. So we can advocate for our kids to try to keep that noise out as much as possible for them. So we can be that agent of change and that protector for our kids. And so I do want to talk a little bit about, if you do have concerns about your child's eating behaviors, I want you to be able to start to recognize some of the signs of disordered eating or an eating disorder so that you can get your child the help they need without any delay. So let's talk a little bit about that. So this is not an all-inclusive list, but some signs of disordered eating or an eating disorder include weight fluctuations, so gaining or losing a significant amount of weight in a short period of time, preoccupation with new foods or with dieting, having new food rules or following fad diets. So things like becoming vegetarian or vegan out of nowhere, wanting to avoid gluten or only eat, clean foods. And I put clean in air quotes too. Frequent body checking. So stopping to look in the mirror very frequently and looking at things like their stomach or their arms or their thighs or their neck, poking around at their body often. Also, things like experiencing dizziness or fainting episodes. It's also important to know that eating disorders know no size, and eating disorders are extremely underdiagnosed in people in larger bodies. So if you are concerned about your kids eating and you're worried that they might be developing disordered eating habits, definitely talk with your pediatrician, seek support from a therapist or a dietitian. And if your pediatrician isn't taking you seriously, find a new provider that does. I would also add that if your kid is having problems at school with bullying, make sure that the school administration knows about it and has a bullying policy to address it. It is not okay for kids to get bullied or, picked on based on their body shape or size. Unfortunately, this does happen at schools, and I wish I could say it was only kids that do the picking, but sometimes even it might come from teachers as well. So it's just something to talk with your kid about. And if you hear anything concerning, make sure that you bring it up with the school administration. And lastly, consider finding a therapist, possibly a dietitian that has experienced in disordered eating and body image. And I would also add that, if your kid exists in a larger body, I think it is extremely important to find a provider that is weight inclusive and that is against dieting. So if you are in need of a dietitian and you're in the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area, I might just be your gal. But if not, please feel free to reach out to me anyway, and I will definitely help you find someone that is local to you. So I just want to thank you so much for joining today. If you are here live, please stick around for the Q&A. You can start to put any questions that you have in the chat box, and we'll get to that in just a minute. I also want to remind you that you will be receiving a link to the replay of this webinar. It'll be available on my website, so you can take a look at the webinar, and you can also look at the archives of previous webinars that I've done. I also would invite you to take a look at my upcoming schedule for webinars for next month. I have lots of different topics coming up, and you can register for those on my website as well. If you are looking for a dietitian for yourself or for your kid, please feel free to reach out to me. Like I mentioned, I work with folks who live in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So if you live in one of those states, I would be more than happy and honored to talk with you more about your needs. If you live outside of that area, you can always reach out to me and I can help point you in the right direction. And I would also recommend the website called HealthProfs.com. It's an online directory for dietitians, and so it's really easy to find someone local to you. So thank you again for joining. I am so happy that you took the time out of your day to be here.